I firmly believe we are living in the greatest time in history. I believe right now, in 2019, we have the ability to reach anyone in the world. We are not limited by where we live. We're not limited by our resume, our background, our sexual orientation, our sex, our race, who we know, where we grew up. I was born and raised in Pittsburgh, and for me, growing up in Pittsburgh, my family in Pittsburgh, really their exposure to the world was Pittsburgh and then a vacation to the Virginia Beach. And that was about it. So growing up for me, I called it pop, like you guys do. And I looked at the world in that way. Now for me, thankfully, I'm raising 3 daughters, and my 3 daughters now are exposed to the world. I've traveled just this past week, or 2 weeks ago, to my 76th country. And my daughters not only get to view that journey with me, but thanks to things like Skype and FaceTime, they've been able to communicate with my friends that are in Australia, and my 9-year-old can tell you what Vegemite is. Our ability to connect around the world without limitations is powerful. What you guys have heard throughout this day-to-day is a lot about this idea of authenticity, being real, putting yourself out there, telling your story, the power of vulnerability, and where all of these things come together. But if we look at it, and I said this on the panel earlier, I am a .com. I am here to not only do what I do, but I love social media for what it's done for my personal life. But I spend so much time, and the reason I love getting on stages is I know and have proof that it changes your business. One of the things that I love about coming back here, besides the fact that Jessica has built an amazing community, is the more I get to work with businesses and leaders that care with what they're doing, that have a story to tell, that are grassroots written in what they're doing. Those are the stories that are easy. You heard the brands during my bio. I had to make IBM sound sexy and cool. My old job was getting the Department of Defense, I was getting the Army to share cybersecurity policies with the Navy. If you think your industry or job or collaboration was hard, mine was harder. But the thing that inspires me the most is we are no longer limited by these boundaries that before growing up we were limited, and they were our constraints. So what I want to talk to you a little bit about today is this idea of digital empathy. And Jessica and I align on many different visions, and the idea of being craveable, I liked it so much I had to wear it on my chest, because that's the idea here of understanding where we're going, is that we have to start putting ourselves in the shoes of our consumer. Would anyone argue right now that the world needs to be more empathetic? Yes, right? We have 2 things we deal with right now, fake news and bad news. But right here in Ohio, there are tons of great stories, tons of great businesses and brands that are doing great things, but unfortunately, no one's talking about them. We talk about the Fire Festival. We talk about brands that have breaches. We amplify those that are doing wrong way more than we do the ones that are doing good. And you might be like, yeah, that's what you kids do. I ask you guys all this in the audience. When you post content or you're dealing with customer feedback, do you spend more time celebrating the customers that love you, or more time celebrating all of the complaints that you get? I'm guessing it's the complaints. We get 10 people that love us, 1 person that hates us. We dissect that 1 person till we figure out it's their problem, not ours. So what I want to inspire you to do, what I want to connect you guys with in this conversation, is I want to open your mind to change. Growing up in Pittsburgh, my dad is a hard worker. He owned a candy company. And my dad always had this adage. He loved that I was in marketing. I didn't realize, really, he was in marketing, too. That's why the peanut brittle company that he ran was very successful. But one of the things my dad would always tell me is, son, I love what you're doing. I love that you're inspiring to get people to put their stories out there. But that's for you millennials. You millennials need to put your stories out there. It's what you guys like to do. And I'm here to tell you some bad news. The adage that my dad would say, and it was simply this: I'm too busy doing work. I'm going to let my work do the talking for me. We've heard that right here in Ohio. Here's the problem. The bad news, the fake news, the loud news, those that are selling unicorns and rainbows, they're screaming so loud, your work will never be heard. You cannot stand out anymore by keeping your head down and doing a good job. You are doing a disservice for your community, a disservice for your business and what you love to do if you aren't telling your story. Because unfortunately, if we want the world to be more empathetic, we first have to let people be empathetic for us. I don't know your story. If you want to compete with Amazon, you need to tell me your story. Because Amazon, I can't even tell you where the phone number is for support. But damn, I like getting that package in 24 hours. But if I know your story, if I care about you as a brand, if I know you care about me as a consumer, I am way more likely to get out of my chair or behind my phone or usually on the airplane and go into your store or to purchase a service that is local. But it's up to us to tell the story. I know for many people that are in here that work for a brand, a lot of the stuff that we've heard on stage today is exciting and inspirational, but in the back of your head, you're asking yourself, well, that'd be nice if it was my company, or that would be nice if I already had a following, or that'd be nice if I was comfortable telling my story. Here's the really harsh truth. And I know every single person that got up on this stage, I'm very blessed to be part of this community. Every person on this stage 3 years ago, 5 years ago, was sure as hell not comfortable telling their story. For me, the reason I couldn't stand, I had no problem talking. My mom will say that I came out of the womb talking, which is why I love podcasting and why I talk so fast now. But when you look at it and you look at storytelling, nobody's comfortable with it. My message last year here was press the damn button. And you've heard that kind of sprinkled throughout here. The reason that became something was I was tired of inspiring great people with great stories to only go back to their business and do nothing because work comes back, right? When you're in this room, you get excited, you take notes, we're all kind of fired up. And then we get back and you're like, oh, there's all those emails that I put off. Like, why did I go to that damn conference? I now have more work than I had when I got there. And here's more problems, and all of a sudden 6 months goes by and you're like, what did I say I was going to do at that conference? And so what I'm here to tell you is that the time to change is now. And if you have to change your boss, which many of you in this room, based on the surveys I was watching earlier, you have to convince your boss to change. Here's the one thing you cannot do. And my focus next year, the book and everything that I'm writing on, is about cross-generational communication. For the first time in history, we have 4 generations in the workplace. We have baby boomers, we have Gen Xers, we have millennials, and we have Gen Z in the workplace today. That's never happened before in the work history of the world. Trying to cross-communicate is a difficult thing, but here's the weirdest part about it. I believe the people that are doing the worst job of it are the millennials and the Gen Z. I am a millennial. Because part of the conversation for us that are trying to drive change, and let's throw out the generations. Those of you in the room that want to go implement something that's different, what we are doing wrong is we are focusing on what we want to change. We tell people what we want to do. I want to launch a Facebook Live. Your boss says, and I want more leads. And you go into the sales team and they're like, I want to close more leads. I want more of what I'm doing. What we need to focus on is educating and inspiring people on why they should change. Don't go in and say, I need to do it on our Facebook Live. Say, I need to go in and drive engagement, connect with the community that we already have, and really drive some real trust, because we want to have them market for us. Sound the difference? I want another tool, a shiny object, and something that you don't understand, boss. Or, I want to help you reach your goals. Trust me enough to do it in my way. And that's what I'm challenging you to do today, because if you do not change, if you do not understand this, you might be a great business and a great brand doing great things. You will be drowned out by fake news, bad news, and unfortunately for many of you, bad decisions. Hence Blockbuster. And if those of you that are under, you don't know what Blockbuster was, I have a new example for you. This one hurt me. As a dad of 3 girls, we went to Toys R Us a lot. Unfortunately, we didn't buy much. We would window shop and then go buy it on Amazon. Part of the problem, not the solution. But we look at this change, and we have to ask ourselves, how do we move forward? And one of the things that's interesting, and I love using this graphic anytime I'm in a good old boy country where we're at right now. We've all seen this movie, and I'm a millennial quoting the great Field of Dreams. And the tagline on Field of Dreams is simply, right? If you build it, they will come. In 2019, if you build something on your social channels, you launch a new website, you get inspired to push a Facebook Live, and all you do is press the damn button, here's the bad news. Nobody is coming and nobody cares. Because right now, the last thing we need is something else. We have more notifications and distractions in our world right now than any time before. So our question now becomes, how do I get inspired to tell my story as a company? But how do I connect with my consumer where they're at? So I'm going to give you 4 characteristics today that are based on where our consumers are at. And just so you guys know, I was inspired. I love the conversation today. I threw out the slide deck I planned on presenting, and I recustomized this based on my other decks to give this directly for you guys to understand where we're moving. because I think the discussion today has been amazing. I can feel the inspiration in the room. But we need to start looking at it and say, okay, if I can understand my consumers and I understand the power of being vulnerable, telling my story, authenticity, I can now take actions that move my business numbers. Because I'm here to tell you, I will never recommend you to do Facebook Live, never recommend you to do Instagram if it does not move your business forward. Social media and content for content's sake has caused the noise that we live in today. And so I want you to think about this from a consumer's perspective. And the first one that I want you to think about is disruption and change is the new normal. If you're upset that everything's changing and Facebook algorithms moving, and you used to be told to write a blog, and it took you 5 years to figure out that blogging was important, and all of a sudden, as soon as you started doing it, now they're telling you video is important, and then you've heard inklings of artificial intelligence and augmented reality and virtual reality and blockchain. If you're overwhelmed by all of that, guess what? Your consumers are used to it, and they don't care that you're overwhelmed. So we have a job to do. Our job is to stop complaining about the change and the disruption, and make a decision. Do we start blaming change and disruption for us not taking action and being innovative? Or do we shift our perspective? Do we hire those that understand these mediums? If you don't know how to edit a video, I think that was one of the comments here earlier, hey, I did live video, I have a video, I just don't know how to chop it up. There's a company that I just started working with this week, and it's the first time I'm ever going to mention them, so full disclosure, preaching transparency, is they are going to be one of my biggest contracts I've worked with. There's a company called Fiverr. And Fiverr is a marketplace that allows you to hire freelance people on the fly. I had someone be able to do editing of a video. They took a 10-minute video and gave me 1 minute and 30-second clips, $18. And guess what? It was pretty damn good. The idea today that disruption and change is stopping you from telling your story is an excuse. It is a crutch. You must get over it because your consumers don't care. Number 2. Community is the future of business. Amen. Jessica Phillips is proving this. I don't even need to stress it. Jessica invests in this community. She cares about this city. She could have easily taken this somewhere else because we're growing, and I tell you what, it's a long drive from Columbus. My 4th time. Although I learned after the first year I drove up from Washington, D.C., I was like, nope, I don't mind the hour and a half to Atlanta and an hour back up here. But if we look at community, community is your employees. Community are your current customers. I would challenge everyone in the room, don't use anything you've learned today to get new customers. Use everything you've learned today to empower your existing customers. Empower your employees. When you hear the word influencer marketing, many of us go, well, I can't hire Kim Kardashian for $250,000 like the Fire Festival. First of all, $250,000 for an Instagram post is asinine stupid. And I want to know how I sign up for that. Community, the people that are influential are on your company right now. Do you guys know 50 Strong? 50 Strong's loud and proud here. Where's 50 Strong representing? To me, this is one of the best companies I've ever been introduced to, and it happened here at this university. 4 years ago, I was in a classroom, and Ashley Thompson, the founder of 50 Strong, that they make all their products here locally. They are an amazing company in Walmart, selling on Amazon, the #1 water bottle. They got more innovation happening. That company is built by 2 founders that wanted to revolutionize their family business and said, we want to keep it in Lima, or Lima Bean. See, I'm 4 years, I still can't figure out if it's Lima or Lima. They wanted to take this great story and they wanted to take it and they wanted to stretch the bounds. They wanted to push things forward. And beyond the fact that they are amazing leaders and just great humans, and those water bottles that you guys have in front of you are from them. I know they're one of the sponsors. Jessica connected me with them, and I love that story. And I believe there's so many more of those stories, many of them in this room, that aren't told. If you guys didn't see recently, they just got promoted on Walmart. They have 3 commercials on Walmart, and actually the star of the Walmart commercials over there, she didn't know I was going to call her out. She got punked by Ashley to do that, so I figured I'd continue on the punking and give her a call out. But I think this is where we look at it, and I think Walmart did a great job on that. But what I want to tell you is the reason they got highlighted was not because they were 50 strong, not because they were here in Ohio, not because their brand is taking off all over the place. It's because of their community involvement. It's because of their giving back. It's because of their grassroots version of caring about the people that work for their company. And that's right here in your city. More of you are doing that. We need to push that level. Third one, the future of innovation is collaboration. If I was every one of you in the room, I just told you the 50 strong story, I would be working with them and figuring out how can I give them more amplification? How can I celebrate them? That video should be on every Lima, Ohio's Facebook page from Walmart right now. Like every one of you should take that. We'll share it into the group. You should take that and celebrate that win. Because think about it this way, the more wins we celebrate, the more opportunities that we collaborate, the more we spread the message of good brands doing good things. I can guarantee you, if it was a Lima, Ohio brand that got caught with a business person shipping money overseas and we had all this bad news about it and he was hiring illegals and all of these things, I can guarantee many of you would have shared it. And sadly, many of you don't even know that story yet. So I'm challenging you to do that because that collaboration is how we reach that masses. I told you, if you build it, nobody is coming. If you collaborate with those that have an audience that you don't currently have, you don't have to make anybody come. You collectively work together. And then the fourth thing for the world today, and this is the one that this presentation is kind of built on, is that I believe the future of marketing is relatability. You do not need a viral video. You do not need to spend all kinds of money on what you're doing. What you need to do now is build trust through relatability. When I travel the world, every single city in the world that I travel to has one thing, and it's a guarantee. The world's most famous pizza. Every city in the world has it because marketers, we realize you put world's famous in front of it, apparently more people are going to come buy it. And then as marketers, we're like, why don't consumers trust us? I mean, we tell them that the sale is going to end this weekend, and then the weekend comes, we send them an email and say, sorry, you missed it. We're going to extend the sale for one more day. And then next week we tell them, don't worry, the sale that you missed last week is still available this week. And then we send them another deal and say it's the best deal we've ever had in our lives. We as marketers have lost the trust. Nobody trusts a brand or a logo. Nobody wants to be sold to or marketed at. The question now becomes, how do we cut through that noise? How do we extend this trust? And it is through relatability. I don't need to know what your brand logo is. I don't need to care about your website. No offense to anyone in that space. But if I understand who you are and that you understand my problems and your product or service solves my problems, I'm in. I talked to someone back there, we're selling, trying to get jobs, right? We're hiring for jobs, right, for a business. One of the things when you look at that from a relatability perspective is if I'm looking for a job, I'm going to trust somebody that has a story of someone else getting a job that looks like me, that understands like me, that has my kind of background. And unfortunately, oftentimes we highlight the one super story, but we don't think about the everyday person. I don't relate to someone that doesn't look like me or have my individual problems. And so when we look at that, the future of marketing is relatability. Now, for many, I hear, as soon as I tell them these four things, they're like, Brian, all you're talking about is millennials, like all those Gen Zs. Like, they're stuck on their phone. They're running around taking selfies everywhere. Well, here's the thing. The people that you're really looking towards, the people that you're really talking about here, it's everyday us. This is me, my 3 daughters, my girlfriend. For me and for what we're doing, we purchase products. We are the consumers that you're trying to target. We are traveling. We understand grassroots. I grew up in an area where my dad said, spend money on people that care about the money being spent. But we don't know your story. I don't know you care, and I use Amazon, right? So when we think about this and we start moving the needle forward, we have to remember that we can blame social media or blame these millennials or this digital consumer for not allowing us to reach our customers, or we can realize that social media and digital aren't the problem. It's a new vehicle for us to tell our great story. The people that I'm worried about, the people that I believe that if they don't hear my message or if they do hear my message and they get scared, are those that are selling unicorns and rainbows. Their business isn't what they say it is. They've been faking it till they make it. They've been selling people on services, especially in the marketing space, where he said, I would get you these likes, I would get you these page views, and then they buy the page views just before the end of your contract, so you extend the contract for another year. They're about to be exposed. They're about to be out of business. The question becomes, are you ready to tell your story to stand out, or are we going to blame the technology and social media that's out there? Because the thing that we're looking at right now, when we look at empathy is about putting yourselves in the shoes of your consumer so that you can feel them. Not so that you can persona them, bucket them, generalize them, and throw stuff out their window. That you can feel them. Empathy requires your desire to understand where they're coming from, what they care about, and what makes them move. What's the inspiration for your consumer? Simply understanding a demographic or having a stereotypical persona does not work today. Does anyone here like being generalized? No. Does anyone here like being marketed to? And we're a room of marketers. Think about that. Our job now is to tell stories. We can't tell stories that matter until we understand that consumer. We understand how they feel. And so I'm going to give you some ideas on how we make that happen. And the first one I can guarantee everyone in this room is, we are all in the same business. Today we are in the business of trust. Every single business. I don't care what you are. Every business is in the business of trust. Our question is, how do we build it? And then, do we care about maintaining it with our existing customers? And I think probably the hardest one of all of these is, how do we scale it? But are we worried too much about scaling and new customers? I think if you look at social media, one of the things that frustrates me is, if I would have came here to this university 10 years ago, and all of you marketers, and I told you, here's the deal. I'm going to give you one customer a day, every day, that's your target customer that we think that you understand. We're going to give you access to their attention for a minute to 2 minutes, and you're going to put anything you want in front of them, one a day. Everyone in this room would have signed up. Every single person in this room. Because think about it, one a day is all these customers. If you're any good, if your product and your story is something to tell, you will close the deal. Unfortunately, all of a sudden, we got a tool that allows us to reach 100,000 random nobodies that we don't understand, and our focus went from one customer that we care about that can move our business, that can help us pay our bills and hire more people, to, I want to go viral. I want to be on stage. Here's the thing. When we're looking at our business, I would much rather, I talked about LinkedIn here earlier, and I know Fox talked about LinkedIn as well. Thing about LinkedIn for me was, it was simple. I looked at my business numbers, 60% of my closed revenue came from LinkedIn. All I did was, I was like, well, guess what I'm going to do in 2019? I'm going to do 3 videos a week every single week. And I'm going to do them only on LinkedIn. And everyone's like, Brian, you're the repurposed guy. You're the guy who puts things everywhere. I was like, here's the thing. I figured out that my story and my thought leadership works on LinkedIn, and they got the money to hire me. That's what we have to start to understand. And here's the funny part about that LinkedIn comment. Do you know when I started caring about LinkedIn? 2012. You know how many engagements I had in 2013? LinkedIn just gave me this data. I engaged in 1,800 posts in 2013. In 2018, it became 60% of my revenue, and I leveraged a platform with video because they didn't have video at the time. But I started building that trust, telling my story in 2013. The easy button does not exist anymore. Going viral, getting your story all of a sudden discovered is no longer a thing. Those that are going to get up here, and you're very lucky, no one on this stage today or tomorrow lives in that world because Jessica believes. There are plenty of stages and events that I speak at where people tell you they try to reverse engineer this crazy success that they had. They don't know how they got it, but they want to ride their 15 minutes of fame, and those days are over. It is no longer about that journey. It's about, how do I build trust today? The other part of this is that relatability piece. And relatability comes down to you understanding who you are. I love that AI was on the last panel, and AI and I connected a couple of years ago, and she was just amazing at reaching out to me on Snapchat, telling her story. She actually asked me, she's like, Brian, can I blog on your website? I'm using Snapchat in my classrooms in Korea. And first of all, I was like, Snapchat classrooms, damn, that's innovative. Third one was Korea, which I love Korea. I've been to Korea well over 20 times. And the fourth one was, wait, she just reached out to me on Snapchat, volunteering to do something free on my site to drive traffic. Of course, what I say, hell yeah, and I can tell you right now, this month alone, I went and checked because AI and I were talking a little earlier. I got 104 page views this month, AI's blog post almost 4 years ago. Think about this from a relatability perspective. She related and connected with me. She knew she had a story to tell, and she reached out and made that connection. I told you the story of Troy earlier on the stage. If you are a brand or a business, care. Put yourself out there, be relatable. I told you to go work with 50 Strong. Please do not inundate them with emails and say, can you guys talk about me? Can you guys connect me with Walmart? That's what we as marketers do, called lazy. And lazy marketing no longer works. When I said connect with them, find out what they care about, find out how you relate with 50 Strong, and amplify them. Figure out how to make them better, because our job in digital today is simply this. We should be shrinking the gap between ourselves and our consumers, not distancing it. We spent the last 9 years on digital marketing, and we said, you know what? I'm tired of talking to people on the phone. Let's just send them to a website. And then we're like, I'm tired of them on my website. Let's give them a form. And then we realized, well, we could ask them 40 questions on a form instead of 20 or 5. So why not inundate them with a ridiculously long form with data that we'll never use and never understand why we collected, but we'll do it because we'll just keep them distance. The craziest thing for me is the things that my dad would talk about in the peanut brittle business in 1990s when we were in Pittsburgh before we moved to Virginia Beach. The things he talked about were trust, story, family-owned, relatability. He said, always told me, he shakes a hand with every single one of his customers. That's what still works today, and guess what? We have a tool that allows us to shake hands at a much greater pace and at a much greater scale than what my dad had to do. And it's our job to shrink that gap. It's our job to understand that, but it's going to require us to shift our perspective. It's no longer marketing at our consumer. It's no longer telling people what our products and services are. It's about shifting the perspective and putting yourself out there. Vulnerability, as you heard Jeff come up here and talk about, as you heard Brian Kramer come up here and talk about earlier, vulnerability is not easy. And it's very apparent when you're trying to use it as a marketing tactic. But when you start getting comfortable telling your story, vulnerability becomes your superpower. I'm not worried about trolls. I'm not worried about haters. I'm not worried about coming out in pink from head to toe. Because I own my vulnerabilities, I know who I am, and I'm not afraid to put it out there. And guess what? Trolls got no power on me. What could they make fun of? Hey, you talk too fast. Hey, you have ADHD. Yep, you're right. And it makes me who I am. Putting yourself out there is a step, and it's a perspective change. Because for the last 9 years, many of you are going to tell me, hey, that's not how it works. I remember I first sat down with Ashley and Brendan the very first time, and I was blown away by their story. Just amazing founders. And like Brendan's running marathons and climbing mountains, and Ashley's managing a household and a business and was doing things in her business in her garage and managing all this stuff. And I was like, you should be telling this story to the world. And at the time, she was like, well, I'm too busy, just getting my products sold out at Walmart, and making, making my water bottle number one. And I was like, okay, touche, valid point. But there is an element here when we look at that, and that was 4 years ago. Today, if I would say that to her right now, I would say, if you don't start telling your story, 2 years from now, you'll be out of business. Yeti will own that market, and we won't know any difference because we don't know where Yeti's even founded or we care where they're from, but we don't know your story. Every business in here must shift their perspective because today's consumers have changed, and I've told you this. That's actually me on the one side. You can guess which one because, look at the phone. And that's my daughter on the other side. Right now, our consumers, we are living as an on-demand world. I'm living it. Right now, every one of your consumers, they want what they want, where they want, how they want it, and when they want it. You know how mad I was when I opened up DoorDash last night at the hotel and nothing was open past 10 p.m. here? Jennifer Hotel, I'm like, what in the world? I know, Lima, you guys kind of roll up the sidewalks at night, other than a couple of places we went last time. But I was like, how do I know I get my food delivered? And then someone was like, we got to walk to Wendy's. I'm like, we got to walk to Wendy's? And then Bella was like, I ain't walking. And so we got a DD to drive us to Wendy's. But if we look at it, that's the consumer we're living with today. And the question I have to ask you is, how good are you today at giving your consumer what they want, how they want, where they want? A podcast isn't going to change your business. Going live isn't going to revolutionize something. But guess what? If you can reach an audience that prefers to consume via live video, why would you not want to do it? For me, I love video. I've done over 3,500 live videos since Meerkat came out in 2014. 3,500 live videos. Do you know how I consume my information, how I stay top of mind? 12 podcasts a week. I listen to 12 podcasts a week, because guess what? I just don't have the attention span, hence ADHD, to watch videos, because then they want my full attention. I'm like, sorry, I want to do 15 things at once, because I still believe in debunking the myth that multitasking is a fraud. But if we look at that and we think about it from a standpoint of today's consumers, we all know this as children. I'm raising $3 right now. I hate the question that says, what do you want to be when you grow up? But I also hate the idea we tell every kid that you must learn everything via teacher talking and reading a book. I was a horrible student. My junior year, my guidance counselor came in and said, so what do you plan on doing after school? I was like, going to college. He's like, that 1.2 GPA ain't getting you into any college. I was like, what do you mean I'm not getting into college? He's like, you got to get that up to go into college. And I was like, because for me, I'm not book smart. I'm not one that learns by sitting in a classroom. I'm one that learns my way. I'm the one that connects. And you want to get me to buy something right now? Target me with an Instagram ad. Hence the shoes, hence the hat. Instagram ad came in my feed and went to where I was at. The Field of Dreams marketing, they went to where I was at, and they provided value. The underlying principle is this. It is not about creating content for content's sake. You're going to hear tomorrow lots of great stories. You're going to hear about Facebook groups with Bella. You're going to hear about chatbots with Kelly. You're going to have individual tables here because Jessica's really made the end of that day tomorrow action-packed. You're going to leave here. Today you're going to be inspired, motivated, understand the change. Tomorrow you're going to get some actionable takeaways. You're going to sit at some tables. You're going to hear the problems that you all share together. And then you're going to be able to take this and move this into your business. But here's the thing I want you to do is we need to focus less on creating random content and more on creating content from the shoes of our consumer. And I don't know if you guys have heard this adage, but we've heard this is spread in the marketing space. We all say that today's consumers have the attention span of a goldfish. I'm here to tell you that is complete crap. Because here's the question for anyone that's out there. Did anyone watch any of the new Netflix series more than 8 seconds? Did anybody watch Game of Thrones episode more than once and then tweet about how bad you were upset with this year's season? The idea that we have a short attention span is crap. The thing that is true is we have no attention span for crappy content. We have no attention span for your marketing and sales content to be disguised as a blog post. Those days are done. If it's randomly down and all of a sudden there's a call to action, there's like a bunch of random buzzwords because we want to jam the buzzwords for SEO value, the consumer not only sees through that, they unfollow, unsubscribe. Let's focus on figuring out how to tell our story, become relatable, and understand where we're moving forward. And the power for this is in your device. Now, unfortunately for me, I just switched my girlfriend to iPhone because my brand's iSocialFanz, iPhone, iPad, iSocialFanz, because I'm an Apple fanboy. Unfortunately for me, we decided to make the change here in Lima at the AT&T store, Lima, and it was 3.5 hours in the store. Service, people were great. We had all kinds of problems on the inside. But one of the things that was funny about it was all we cared about the entire time was our mobile device. We didn't even care that we were at somewhere else. We didn't care that we were traveling or driving because we can work and we can create and we can engage via that mobile device. But you take away that mobile device and it's a whole different change. And so what I want you to think about is today's consumer is consuming via their mobile device. Are you creating content that is friendly for the mobile consumer? It's no longer just those millennials that are watching stuff on their phone. I asked my daughter took video this past weekend for Father's Day, and happy Father's Day to all those fathers out there. And they woke me up and they brought me breakfast in bed. And as a divorced dad, that meant they put Cheerios in a bowl, stacked it with powdered sugar donuts, a glass of apple juice, and a giant Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle mug. And my youngest daughter snuck into my room and grabbed my phone, and she took a video because I was like, wow, that's my kid. Like, anyone that knows me, I create a lot of video. And I asked her why she took the video, and she's like, well, Daddy, I want to remember this. This was so much fun. We surprised you. I want to remember it. And because I'm a marketer and because it's kind of how I live, I said, well, why did you take it holding the phone like this? And she's like, well, Daddy, I'm only going to watch these memories on my phone. And I immediately was like, wow. When I think about creating memories, I take it the other way because I want them to last long, and I'm going to watch them on my computer. But we also have to ask ourselves, well, how many of these videos do we ever watch on our TV or computer? I mean, I remember my dad taking video on that giant VHS. We never watched any of those videos. But he'll tell you all about them, and they're in a nice little case, and they're labeled, and I don't even know how you program a VCR these days. But if we think about that, mobile phone has changed it. It's changed the world that we're going. And so when I look at this, and as we moving forward, what I want you guys to remember, and I said this is part of what I said last year as well, think like a fan. What I mean by that is people aren't sharing your content or caring about your story because it's not relatable to them and it's not helping them. We do not share marketing messages on any of our channels. We do not share your sales numbers. We do not share your product specs. We have to put ourselves in the shoes of our fans. And if you don't know, if right now you're like, this is great, but I don't know, what I'm asking you to do is every customer that you get right now, ask them how they found you. Ask them what their favorite social media channel is today. Ask them what they care about, what problems you could solve. You would be amazed because today's consumer, you simply asking them is a giant step in the right direction, and that's the key. And what I want you to think about as we think like a fan and we move forward, this is the word I want you to remember, access. We crave access to who you are, what you are about, how you make a difference. The word access is what I want you to think about. The way that you give access is you remember the first thing. And you guys heard my girlfriend up here earlier. She's the perfectionist. Now that we're dating, we're going to work on that side of making sure that, because I believe perfection's a fairy tale. If you're worried about a perfect brand, a perfect message, a perfect conversation, you will not press the button. You will not tell your story. And here's the hardest news. You'll be out of business. Because we as consumers, anyone here know of a perfect brand in Ohio? I'm from Pittsburgh. I can answer that quickly. But nowhere do we believe a brand is perfect, yet we try to portray ourselves as perfect. Stop worrying about perfect and start trying to be authentic. Authentic allows us to tell our story our way. Because here's the truth. If you suck offline, Fire Festival, there is one guarantee when you move online. Little DX reference. You will suck online. So as we move forward, my question to you is if you don't suck, and if you do suck, you probably need to be different online, just putting that as a caveat. If you have a business to tell, if you have a story, you understand who you are and what you're about, be yourself. Put yourself out there. Start telling your story. Because I said this earlier on. You're doing a disservice for your customers, your clients, and you yourself because you care about what you're doing. I don't care if you own the business. I don't care if you're an entry-level employee. Today, it's our job to put ourselves out there, to be transparent. Because the thing I said about empathy, if we want the world to be more empathetic, if we want the world to understand the power that is in this world today, because I believe, I travel around the world, I go to cities and hear from great brands and great businesses. And then I go listen to the media and the news, and all I hear is crap and bad news and fake news. So I know that it's true. I know that we're here. And so what I'm challenging us to do is we need to care about each other. We need to care about our consumers. And we need to show we care in everything that we do. And I hope you take that challenge because I do believe it starts here with us putting ourselves out there. And I said this before, and I'm going to leave you guys with this for this presentation. I'm going to leave you with this. If you believe the world needs more empathy, if you believe that you have a story to tell, you love what you do, your business can change lives, it can help people solve problems, here's the challenge. You must put yourself in those same shoes. You must start to understand that power of authenticity and transparency, but for freaking sake, you need to press the damn button. My name's Brian Fanzo. Thank you, guys.